So you know how I did mini talkings on Midnight and also the Rat Leader? Well, as it turns out, there's at least one more weird animal lingering around. This one was suggested by Rye on Patreon. Now, unlike the other two, Sharptooth does not speak. He doesn't even say grr, kill, kill, kill like some dogs we see in the series. Sharptooth is basically, to the domestic cats we see, a wild animal. Sharptooth spends his time picking off tribe cats one by one, looming dangerously outside the entrance to their cave, and haunting Stoneteller's nightmares. His profile picture is him with a fish, and he also likes hiking, and his favorite show is The Office. The plot is not very deep with Sharptooth. He is a big, scary lion, and he eats cats. The tribe has a prophecy telling them that a silver cat will come and save them, and they think this is Stormfur and try to make him fight the lion for them. In the end, it's Feathertail, who is arguably more silver, depending on your depiction, who ends up sacrificing herself to save them from the lion. But all the other cats also helped. Squirrelpaw even jumped on the thing and bit it in the tail. Sharptooth is always referred to with male pronouns if they're not calling Sharptooth it, and is described as being a lion but without a mane. Stoneteller seems to say with an air of seriousness when this comes up, perhaps he lost it because he is so evil. This is extremely funny in my opinion. I'm sure he was trying to be serious when he said that, very deep and serious, but perhaps he lost all of his hair because he is evil is just a funny thing to say even if you are being serious. They call him Lion Cat throughout the rest of the book, and he's also called huge and tawny-colored. Overall, this is about it. What kind of animal is Sharptooth? Oh, he's a Sharptooth. But more seriously, yes, he's a mountain lion. While inside the main series books, he is never called one, nor do they give any evidence that he isn't simply a maneless lion or a female mistaken for a male or intended to be some sort of still-alive descendant of ancient cave lions. In the Ultimate Guide, they just kind of say it. Mountain lion. Which, I guess, is fine and all, if this series didn't take place in the UK, like it kinda sorta claims to. And you could easily argue that it's an escaped pet. There is evidence of mountain lions that were kept as pets escaping in the UK. There's also an exotic animal collector, dealer, roadside zoo manager that we see very recently in Ivypool's Heart, and they have all sorts of exotic animals on their property. There's plenty of ideas that lead back to, oh yeah, Sharptooth is just a one-off, escaped wildcat situation. If we didn't have another book, 10 years later, that decides that Sharptooth is an elusive staple of the English countryside. So in A Forest Divided, while humble bragging to Thunder about how much life sucks in the mountains, Sunshadow tells him that occasionally, during the winter, they would find deer carcasses left behind by Sharptooth. Plural. He says they are rare, but far more deadly than eagles. This sets up a few things. First is that Sharpteeth have been at least somewhat consistently living in the mountains for the past 50 to whatever years in the Warrior Cats universe, and that they probably don't normally hunt cats. It's really hard for me not to point at situations like this and go, retcon, that is a retcon, they're making stuff up, they are just completely erasing the implications of earlier books, but I don't know. I feel like a different book series would have at least implied where Sharptooth came from to begin with. They would have at least kind of had it be a secret that was revealed as to the nature of Sharptooth or how Sharptooth got there, but in Warrior Cats you don't really get stuff like that very often. So a book 10 years later saying that, yeah, the Sharptooth is just what lives in the mountains here, I guess. And, okay, this can, if you are desperate, line up with the original text. We could say, hypothetically, Sharptooth is the last in his line, and that he's descended from the deer-hunting cats that Moonshadow mentioned, but he's on his last legs, starving to death, and forced to hunt down cats. This is entirely plausible if we ignore the fact that there's a breeding population of mountain lions in the implied UK in, 1920, whatever, something yellow caterpillar tractor. But additionally, back when the cats are initially talking about Sharptooth, remember when Stoneteller tells them that all of his hair fell out because he was evil, or might have fallen out because he was evil? I'm not saying that this has any truth to it, it might have been a joke, known comedy genius Stoneteller, I guess, but he's talking about Sharptooth not as if Sharptooth is displaying normal behaviors, hunting for food in the way an animal might, but instead with implied malice. He seems to believe that Sharptooth is killing his clanmates on purpose, trying to kill them off. And yeah, it also makes sense that this could be considered an emotional response, and I'm sure he knows full well that Sharptooth is just looking to eat them, especially considering that he not only claims that Sharptooth is eating them one by one, we also see Sharptooth leaving the cave once he's caught one of the cats in a later chapter. Nothing about Sharptooth's behavior is evil, from an animal standpoint specifically. But if there are stories of earlier Sharptooths, or he was told of Sharptooths by his ancestors, or there were potentially Sharptooths that Stoneteller had seen in the past as a youth, this Sharptooth might seem like he's uniquely evil if compared with other Sharptooths specifically. This entire tangent is just a wild stretch and a huge justification of what is definitely and absolutely a retcon. But it can work, with a little squinting at the fact that Sharptooth isn't really used as a species name as opposed to the name of an individual until Dawn of the Clans. When I was a kid, and by kid I mean 12 or 13 or however old I was when this book was coming out, I definitely did think of Sharptooth as a mountain lion. But that's because I have this completely false memory of there being Wayne art in black and white of Sharptooth in some field guide or another. This is a lie that my brain tells itself. There isn't any. He had, however, painted mountain lions as a wildlife painter. I guess on some level it's easy to see something like this and think, well, I mean, wasn't that from a cat book? But this isn't even the fake illustration I remember. I remember it being in black and white. And very potentially only a headshot. Regardless of this, I do find the idea that if we erase the Ultimate Guide from our heads for a second, the idea that Sharptooth is actually some long-hidden descendant of ancient cats, ancient cave lions as opposed to an escaped pet, really appealing. We know that he can't really be a smaller cat, even a medium-sized big cat, because it describes him holding entire cats between his jaws. We also know that he's probably not a tiger or a jaguar or anything, because they very likely would have described his spots or stripes in that case, despite both animals maybe being able to be called tawny if you squint. But an ancient lion, I mean, who besides the Ultimate Guide is to say that's not true? Ignoring that it's just as wild a fantasy as everything else that's been presented about Sharptooth in canon. Escaped pet just feels like a boring answer. It's so boring that I'm sitting here humoring retcons. From what I understand, the lion and the mountain lion are actually very far from each other in an evolution sense. I think that the mountain lion is closer to the domestic cat than it is the lion. And, of course, mountain lion isn't exactly its most official name, either. Anyway, Sharptooth, as a character, doesn't really have much personality to speak of. He's really just an animal, described with the personality trait evil, but displaying the personality trait hungry. If what he wanted was to kill off the tribe like Stoneteller thought he did, he could have done that, probably, just by, hanging out in the cave. He seemed annoyed with cats attacking him, but he didn't seem particularly damaged by it. Granted, maybe the element of surprise was a big thing for this, because it does mention, somewhere in the back half of the book, that Squirrelpaw could outrun him. And no offense to Squirrelpaw, who, gets caught in fences and whatnot, but I do not think she is the fastest cat in the series. Moon Kitty says no offense to Squirrelpaw. Of course I don't mean offense to Squirrelpaw. Who do you think I am? So maybe if Sharptooth, goes into the cave and makes his presence known in any way, all the cats just kind of play keep away and go to, one side of the cave if he goes to one corner and the other side of the cave if he goes to the other corner, really fast. There is no evidence to support this. I'm pretty sure that Sharptooth doesn't seem to have too much problem catching the cats. While if we're looking at this from a logical perspective, we can probably assume that any feline probably has warrior cat-like self-awareness, Sharptooth isn't exactly displaying that. The book simply treats him as a, again, wild animal. The same series also treats badgers, also a common killer, but not a hunter of cats, with quite a lot more empathy, despite being non-feline. I guess they can still create a big band of badgers with which to attack and drive out the cats, but the cats started it. And they make it pretty clear that they know that the cat started it, and that's a huge level up on Sharptooth. We don't really see any feelings or motivation in Sharptooth. His eyes are described as being cold. And maybe we can read into it. Maybe we can say that Sharptooth feels really bad about killing all those cats, but he was really hungry in his defense. Anyway, I really hope that he gives Squirrelstar the life for biting people in the butt. This has been a mini-talking, so I will not be looking at top voted suggestions in the comments, but I will be looking at the comments and seeing seeing what you guys want to see. Maybe I'm out of very special non-cat animals for now, but I'm sure you'll tell me if I missed one, until somebody makes me talk about Pip the dog or something. The next full talking video will be for Crooked Star, so wish me luck on that one, it's gonna be huge.